PPM avoids the pitfalls with managing project time, cost, and resources. Today's speakers, we have Sylvia and Mo, who will be joining us from HPE. Sorry, just one technical difficulty there. Thank you for joining today. My name is Alvin Sumter. I'm the Global Quality Assurance Manager at ThyssenKrupp Elevator, and I'm a PPM SIG lug leader for Vivid. My focus at TKE is quality assurance, change process, and testing. And thank you for joining today. Today's speakers, we have Sylvia, Senior Product Manager at HPE. She has 20 years of experience in IT organization and has been uniquely combining product management and project management and a host of things around information library and Corbett and ISO. And also now she's transitioned doing a lot of things in agile and hands-on diverse technology, providing customers with superior advice in IT management. Sylvia is currently working with the WWSR Product Management for HPE Performance Testing Solutions, as you know it for HPE Performance Center and HPE Load Runner. Also, she supports the IT Performance Management Suite and PPM solution, executive scorecard and financial planning, a host of duties at HPE. She's been responsible for defining and planning and executing the go-to-market strategy, and also has been an evangelist in the field to increase sales and market share. Also, we have with us Mo today. Mo is our HP Engagement Manager, and he's a solution consultant. He has over 10 years of solution and implementation of PPM for PMOs across multiple industries. He's also consulted with Big Four firms and other software vendors in the PPM space. Just a few housekeeping items. If you've noticed, this session is live and it will be recorded, and all recordings are available to all Vivid members. So if you're not a Vivid member, please join, and you can get all the on-demand webinar recordings from our sessions. So if you'd like to enlarge the presentation screen, if you look at the little arrow and click on the rectangle in the upper right-hand corner of the presentation screen, and you'll be able to enlarge the presentation today. Next, you can also receive this live webinar in your local language. If you look in the bottom arrow where the little flag is, on the left-hand side of the screen where the flag is, and if you choose that, you're able to choose your local language option. And if you have any questions, you can post those in the Q&A pane and click on the Ask button, and those will come directly to us. So let's go ahead and kick off our presentation with Sylvia and Mo today, avoiding the pitfalls with managing projects, time, cost, and resources. Sylvia and Mo, take it away.
Thanks, Alvin, and thanks everyone for joining. It's always a pleasure to talk to you guys. For those that doesn't know too much about me, Alvin already mentioned that I worked with this project portfolio management a couple of years ago, and I'm back working with this product again, and it's a pleasure to work with you guys and be presenting today. So I'm excited to talk about time, cost, and resources. It's kind of an interesting topic because I know that everyone struggles with that, and myself as well, because I have done tons of project and program management. I'm still doing program management within my role, and then that's one of my major issues as well. Well, with that, I want to basically tell you guys that today is going to be a very slightly different type of webinar, right? I want to do an interactive webinar. So first of all, as Alvin mentioned, try to find in your screen where is the chat area, right? I even put a hello everyone to all of you guys, right? We are going to have some poll questions. There's the chat area. I would like us to interact with each other. I would like to know more about you. I have some questions, so make sure that you are alert, and also you participate, because the objective here is not just me talking, but we learning from each other. And I think that you guys also have tons of good experience that you can even chat here among yourself and also provide some input in terms of the presentation. And also we have the Q&A area, the question area that you can put your questions, and we are going to answer the questions by the end of the webinar. So, and starting with that, I'm going to do my first question for you. What is your role within project portfolio management, or even HPE project portfolio management administration? Are you a project manager? Are you a program manager? Are you a portfolio manager? You do all the above. You do even more than project management requires. You do also maybe sales or development or quality. What do you do, right? Or maybe you don't do any one of these areas, but are interesting to learn more about, right? So let me know what you do, and I'm going to share here a poll, and I want to see. Okay, I see some people answering already. I want a couple of more people answering. We have 43, 52 participants, so I want to see at least 50%. So guys, take a minute now, answer the question. Yep, it's going the numbers here. Let me refresh. That's good. More people answering. And then as soon as I get to the number that I want, yeah, take just a quick time to answer here. What's your role? So we have a couple of project managers, have some portfolio management. We have a couple of people. That's interesting. Yeah, the numbers are rolling. Okay, good. Just more like 10 seconds. If you haven't had a chance yet to tell me a little bit about you, please do. Yep. There is people that doesn't do none of those above. So that's good, because then you are probably wondering to learn a little bit more about project management. And I'm saying project, but it's program, it's portfolio, it's all the above. Good. Okay, 10 seconds pass, and I'm going to show here a pie chart and show you guys. It's interesting. I'm going to just share. Hope that you guys can see now. So we do have maybe, let's say, 25% that's project manager. We have around 40% that is all the above. And we have another 25% probably that's none of these areas. It's a very good mix. And thanks for sharing, guys. I'm going to close now. Then we're going to go to the next slide. So today we're going to talk about resource, time, and cost. As you know, project management is not an easy task. It's interesting because sometimes people have this perception that project management is easy, it's just creating tasks and following up and doing nothing, right? More than that. But according even PMIs, there is tons of areas, 9 areas of management. And on top of that, you know, there is some areas that are critical and requires a little bit more attention and constant attention. On that is resource, time, and cost. And that's the area that we're going to focus today. So initially, I want to do another question for you. When you're managing your projects, in which area do you struggle the most or more? Is resource management, time management, cost management? If there is any other area that you struggle when you're managing your projects and programs, type it here in the chat area, or all the above. And what I'll do is I'll bring the poll as well. And then I'm going to share with you guys. Then you guys can answer. Let me just get the poll surveys. Yes, I'm going to share. Perfect. And I'm going to push for you guys. Okay, so let's see the answers. Oh, actually, sorry about that. The answers here was yes or no, but let's do this. Oh, okay. So this was incorrect poll. You see, submission sometimes happens. So let's just do this. Answer here the chat area, right? What is your area of? Okay, now we go. There you go. Thanks, Terry. That is pushing it. Okay. Okay, I have now the poll correctly in the screen, so you should see now. When managing projects, in which area do you struggle more? Resource, time, cost, other areas? or all the above? Okay. Resource. Wow, it's a big one, huh? All the above. I'm with you guys. Resource is the largest one. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, yeah. Good participation. Okay, 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And let's see the results. Okay, let me push the results here. Okay, so as you can see, interesting thing, right? Resource is our major pitfall, right? In areas that we struggle. Same here. Oh my gosh, I attend tons of classes to even improve my knowledge regarding managing resources, because people, as I always say, is like a very small surprise box, right? But anyway, so we talk here about like resource management is one of the most area that we struggle. And within resource management, right, what areas you have major struggles, right, within resource management? So I put here in some items, some ideas, that is some areas that I have issues, is resource allocation, right, resource management, multicultural teams. I have sometimes issue with solving conflicts, right, or determine even staff risks. Which other areas you struggle in terms of resource management? And use here the chat area so we can communicate here. So let me know what other areas you struggle with resource management. I want to hear from you guys. Let me just type in here. Yep. So type in here, which other areas do you struggle within resource management? Within resource management, besides allocation management, multicultural teams. Yep, I can see some things here. Okay, yep. I can see some resource availability. Yep. Lead administration. Okay. Business analysis supporting tool. Oh, yeah. There is a couple of resource skill management, bingo, yep. My major issue too. That's good, yeah. Good collaboration. So guys, and resource management is all about collaboration too, but let's talk here. My struggles, right? When I manage projects, right, or programs, right, one of the items that I see is sometimes they allocate resources to my projects, even sometimes without like telling me which resources I'm getting, right? So it's a struggle because this predefined resource sometimes doesn't have the right knowledge to do the work that should be done. Or sometimes they have the best knowledge in some other areas, but not specifically in this domain, right? And that might cause some issues in my project. So how can I avoid that? And I'm going to talk a little bit later. Also, another issue that I see is unqualified resources to achieve the task. Of course, when they assign people that doesn't have that skill set specifically, it's not just senior, or sometimes, too basic or doesn't have the knowledge of the company, and, that also can cause some issues in the project. Sometimes I have issues because I have shared resources. And then, whenever you have shared resources, working multiple projects, of course, they were going to work in projects that they like it. It's not like that they are going to work just in my project or in other projects. Some people just work more or prioritize the projects that they like the most. So it's another issue that I have with resource management. I'm sure you also have that, right? Also, lack of clarity in their roles. Sometimes a person comes to my project, or sometimes even in the middle of the project, they don't know that very well what the project is about. They don't know what their role is supposed to be. They know that they need to do something. Don't get me wrong. There is a very good amount of people that come to work in my project, but sometimes there is no clarity even for the direct managers in what they are going to be doing the project. Also, another issue that I have is visibility in what everyone is really doing, right? This is another struggle, and I see here lead administrator too, right? Someone said that resource availability and skill management. Oh my gosh, those are kind of pain points that we have, right? And then also one of the critical pieces by the end of the day is also the personalities and the styles to work, right? As many of you guys might know, there is different types of styles of work. And then we need to also try to do the best to find out how that resource can be providing the best of themselves for our project, right? So let's talk here a little bit about something kind of fun and different, right? So let's analyze a fun case. So I'm not sure how many of you guys watched the Apprentice show, the 2017 series, right? Was with Schwarzenegger, and was interesting, right? Because they brought all the celebrities to work as a team, and they have this project, and every show was basically a project that they need to accomplish. It was a simple project, but it's still a project, and you see very much the issues that we have when you do resource management, right, in this particular show. And I like a lot the episode number 2. The scope was basically to create an advertisement for a company. They have to create a song. They have to create an advertisement, something fun, something very innovative, right? And the staff, right, they have some roles that they define among themselves, right? There was not a person to basically say, each one of you guys are going to be doing this, and this, and that. They have to define between themselves who is going to be the project manager, who is going to be leading this or leading that, or leading the music and leading the videography and everything, right? So they have to define between themselves. And then the project dynamics was there was a limited time to accomplish the request, basically 24 hours or so. But there was also various external resources, and cost was not a problem. So in this case, it was kind of cool because, they have the money and sometimes we don't, right? But analyzing this show, and I recommend you guys just to watch, it's interesting because whenever they decide to we have a project, we have a scope, who's going to be the project manager? And the interesting piece in this show is that no one wants to be the project manager because they always say that the project manager is going to be fired. It's interesting because not the reality, right? Because project manager can really do a good job. It's just up to the project manager to have the leadership and know how to manage the resources well, the cost, time, and the other areas that you guys know. But it's interesting how they portray, right, the role of the project manager and within the resource management, right? And there was 2 teams, right? The team number 1 and number 2, a group of female and a group of male guys. And then the number 1, I was even playing with my fiancé. We are beating each other who is going to be with the winner, right? And the interesting piece is there was 2 teams, the team 1 that lost, and the team 2 that was the winner, of course, right? And the team that lost, what we learned about that team, right? As soon as they got together, nobody wants to be the project manager, but then finally someone kind of assigned another person, and this person decides to, okay, I'm going to be the project manager. But she never defined very clear roles within the team, right? So that was a major issue. She let just everyone do whatever they want. And the second point is there was a major lack of communication. There was some people in the team that was bringing to her some risks, and she was not paying attention, especially about resource. And that's basically a very poor management in terms of resources. On the other hand, the team 2, right, they have a very clear role definition in the beginning. They separate the teams. They understand what each one could do. And then they focus in their roles. They focus also in finishing what they're supposed to do, each individual or 2, 3 people together. They have excellent communications between the peers. Of course, there was issues. Of course, there was risks as well in the team too. But it was very clear that the project manager did a very excellent job in bringing the team together and also defining very clear the roles, right? So it's kind of a fun case to analyze. We have some other business cases that we're going to discuss here. But, how you avoid the pitfalls of resource management, right? So first of all is project charter, a clear scope and a clear visibility in how people are going to work in your project. It takes time. It's hard sometimes to to spend that time defining, especially within agile teams now, right, integrate to project portfolio management, development teams. It's very important to define the roles and understand the resources that are working in your project. It's very important to manage risks upfront as well. Understand if resources are going to be out, if resources are working shared teams, if they have other tasks that they are working, if you're getting just a portion. And also, it's important to see nowadays, with all the social media technology that is around to distract, be realistic with time that people are going to be working your projects, right? So something also that's very key for resource management is the status meeting. But the status meetings now, I mean, when I say status meetings, basically collaboration, team participation, communication, understand what everyone is doing, how they are delivering, if they need any help, any support, and in the same time, provide support and communication to them to talk to them among themselves. There is tons of other, I would say, tools around for collaboration today and gamification that you can bring to the team and then make the project be a fun thing, and bring the best of each one in terms of managing resources. Also, another very important key here is leadership. You are not just a project management asking tasks if you're complete or not, right? It's important even to understand each one. It's important to see if the people is assigned to the right roles. And that's a role of a leadership. And not only that, when you have issues with some resources, it's about you trying and bring the best of the person and challenge the resources to do their best. It's about leadership as well. So all that goes together with resource management, and avoiding the pitfalls. So most important here, don't forget, know your team. Every team member is unique, and that's where you can bring the best of them. And then the next one that I want to mention here is how our solution, project portfolio helps, right? So first of all, we have clear demand management with a clear workflow that helps you to define exactly what the steps should be done within the project and tasks. The second part of our project portfolio management is we have a very cool and very good, actually, table where you can enter the resources, you can select the resource, and you can see also the skills of resource that you need for your project and assign the right resources for your project. If you get predefined assigned resources, you can also go to the system and analyze a little bit more about the information. So we can keep that information profile of each individual in the system. So we have the resource knowledge. We can do a better resource assignment. We can also do a team management in collaboration with our solution. And the most important is you get visibility. So even here, you can see a simple screen where we show our resource management, resource allocation. And then up front, you can see the risks that you might have because you might not have resources enough. Something important, I know that a lot of people likes to use Microsoft Project, and that's fine. That's one other solution that is in the market. But the good thing is that if you want to consolidate all those information from Microsoft Project, you can bring that also to PPM. And then with that, you can also have the timesheet, time management on top of that to compare, to do the analysis and understand and be proactive within the resource management. When you talk about resource management, right, time goes very along with time management. And then basically you need also to ensure that the resources are allocated correctly, and it's important also to manage together the time. That's why you also brought the time management subject today. And for time management, I'm going to invite my coworker, Mo. He is in the professional services. He has tons of experience with customers, diverse projects as well, and programs. And he's going to share his experience about time management with you guys now. With you, Mo.
Hey, thanks, everybody. Thanks, Sylvia. As Sylvia mentioned, resource management is obviously focused on making sure that you have the right resources and making sure that your resources know what they're going to be working on tomorrow, the next week, the next month, the next quarter. Time management is obviously on the other side of the picture, right? At the end of the day, it's a way to capture what they did. So at the end of the week, you have visibility into, so what did Tom work on last week? What did Jennifer work on last week? Things like that. So obviously, there's a huge dependency on the other portions of the PPM module and of the project management space as well. Obviously, resource management is one of those areas that it depends on, but it's got dependencies on project schedules and so on and so forth. The way we kind of wanted to talk about it today on time management was, one, what are some of the major struggles that we've seen customers see, and then we'll also talk about some of the ways we've helped customers overcome those struggles. And finally, also talk about a little bit about how PPM helps kind of address some of these issues. This is no way meant to be an exhaustive study of studies. So if you Google, for instance, why projects fail, you'll see some of these issues that people run into repetitively, whether it's Harvard Business Review or Gartner and so on. This is not meant to be like that, but more based on our experiences, what we've seen customers struggle with most of the time and how they've kind of overcome that. Okay. So some of the struggles we've seen is what you're seeing right now. The most common one we've seen is obviously compliance, right? Compliance is probably the most common thing, primarily because there's not a real, it's not something that anybody really wants to do, right? There's not a whole lot of people that say, okay, we would really like submitting timesheets on a weekly basis or monthly basis or whatever you have. You probably haven't run into anybody that said, hey, all the time when I was growing up, I wanted to get 100% timesheet compliance when I grow up. That's never been anybody's goal, I think. The second issue that we've seen a lot of customers struggle with is, and this is again tied to some of the project management side of it, but it kind of percolates down into time management, and that is a non-project effort. If you're a typical IT organization, IT PMO and so on, you probably have resources working on projects, but that's not the only thing they do. They probably have other applications they support on a day-to-day basis, maintenance activities that they do, small enhancements, things like that. Even though they may not be individually big enough to be a significant percentage, once you have several of those, several small enhancements can add up during the course of a week, and they end up being a significant portion of your resources' time. I think Gartner said something like 60% of average IT resource spends their time on non-project work, and only maybe 40% or something like that is really dedicated to project work. Capturing that non-project work is often a challenge that we've seen customers run into. And by that non-project effort, we're not really talking about things like vacation and meetings. Obviously, people are more than happy to tell you that they're going to go on vacation. That's probably something that everybody looks forward to putting into their timesheet, but things that are small enhancements and so on. And that's one of the things that we've seen customers not be able to track or have inaccuracies and not captured. The couple of other items on the next three items are kind of to some extent related with each other, and those are around inaccurate effort estimates for tasks, and this is something that's tied to the project scheduling side of things, but often you have either project managers or whatever methodology used to make sure that that people when they're schedule resources and so on, how they allocate, saying this effort is going to take 20 hours this week, 40 hours for developing that, inaccurate effort estimates for tasks. That also kind of has a bearing on how accurate your time management ends up being. There's a couple of other items we've seen as task over assignments by PM and visibility when resources work on multiple projects. This is often the case when you have multiple projects and people working on multiple projects, and there's a dedicated resource manager that's assigning a resource to multiple projects. And so Tom is assigned to project A for 50% and project B for 30%. In this example of a shared resource, and in that case, it becomes an issue because the PM that gets Tom for 50% may allocate that person for more than that, and that causes issues when it comes to entering time down the road, and in terms of either accuracy or people actually knowing that they're supposed to be working on multiple projects, or other accuracies as well, where they say, hey, I only worked, I didn't work 40%, I was supposed to work 30%, things like that. Obviously, there are other issues as well, right? Because once you have when you have the risk of customer resources being over assigned, it's okay if somebody's assigned for 120%, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. But if that goes on for month after month after month, you're going to have resource retention issues and so on. So these are some of the issues that we've seen customers struggle with. Some directly time management, some that are kind of percolating into time management from resource management and project management. We kind of wanted to ask you guys as well, if you see other areas, what are some of the other areas that you guys see? Feel free to type it in, and part of this exercise is also to see what are the typical customers seeing in terms of issues and so on. If there are issues that we see kind of consistently and frequent enough, we do want to kind of try and take it back to our product management and see if this is something that, what is the best practice, and if there's a product solution that needs to be changed or enhanced to address some of these issues. Okay, task assignment, Silvio. Hey, Silvio. That's one of the issues that we've kind of talked about, was often when a resource is partially allocated by a resource manager, and the PM doesn't even know that this person is only 50% allocated, at least, particularly if it's, if you have done resource contouring, that's obviously an issue that we've seen often enough. So what are some of the ways that we've seen customers avoiding some of these issues and pitfalls? The first few, some of them will talk about increasing compliance, address the compliance issue. As we said, obviously, it's not unusual to see customers having 90% or something like that in terms of compliance. So 90% of the timesheets are submitted by resources that are supposed to entering timesheets. I don't know where most of you folks are, if you guys are seeing much more close to 100%, or if you're seeing very different from say 50% compliance. That is something that we're kind of curious about. But it's not that unusual to see 90% or somewhere there. It's not that uncommon to see in terms of compliance. But some of the customers that we've seen kind of making it higher in the high 90 ranges, or even 90 to 95% range, what we did was we went and said, hey, how come these customers are seeing such high compliance, and kind of analyzed it, and these are some of the things we saw. One was encouraging time management compliance by increasing visibility. So of senior management, either participating in time management. There's actually, I know there's actually one customer here that I see where actually even the CIO said they would even start entering timesheets, because if I'm going to, the logic was, if I'm going to ask my people to do this, I should do this myself on a regular basis. That definitely drove the fact that the CIO was, and obviously once the CIO started entering, all the directors started entering time, even if it's mostly meetings and so on, that increased the fact, not just the fact that the CIO was entering, but also the fact that the CIO was looking at it, increased the compliance and people's willingness and understanding that this is important, that they enter their time on a regular basis. The other part of it is obviously, the name and shame strategy, right? So the fact that, you send out an email saying, hey, these are the people that didn't enter time this week, and then nobody wants to be on that naughty list on a regular basis, week after week. So after a couple of times, we saw people kind of saying, okay, maybe this time, I know I've been on this naughty list a couple of times, so I'm going to be a little bit more diligent, set up a reminder so that they enter time make sure that they enter time on a regular basis. Most of our customers obviously are doing time management on a weekly basis. I'm assuming that's quite often the case for most of the customers, most of the folks on this call as well. If there are anybody really too too much of an outlier for that. So people using monthly, that is something that we're curious about as well, if there are actually customers using monthly timesheets. The one thing that we've seen that's definitely helped customers increase compliance for resource time entry is encouraging people to do not just weekly time submission, but get into the habit of entering time on a daily basis, so it's not just, hey, 5 o'clock on Friday, I'm about to head out the door, I'm going to log in and enter time. Instead of that, get into the habit of, or rather, in addition to that, get into the habit of entering time daily. So every day, either first thing in the morning, they enter time, or last thing as they're leaving for the day, they enter time saying what they did, what did they work on that day. Not only does it reinforce the habit, you're much more likely to do something on a regular basis if you do it on a daily basis, right? It's a self-sustaining cycle. It becomes part of the daily routine. The side advantage of that is that it also increases the accuracy of your time management. I don't know about most of the folks on this call. I definitely cannot remember on Friday, what I had for breakfast on Wednesday even, so much less am I going to remember how many hours or what I worked on Project A versus Project B during the course of the week. So these are some of the things that we've seen helping with compliance and increasing the accuracy of your time management. One of the things that we've seen customers do to increase, to kind of enhance compliance or consistency in time reporting is, particularly when you're first going live and so on, don't make your security configuration too complex, or your PPM configuration using your project settings and so on so complex that somebody trying to enter time on Friday, they're not able to find the projects that they need to enter time on, or they can't see it, or they have other issues, they're not assigned to the right task, and so on and so forth. The more complicated you make it, the less likelihood that somebody's going to actually, A, remember to enter time to the right task, and B, much less likely that if they're not on the right task and they can't enter time, they'll probably go, okay, I'm just going to put it either to meetings or something like that, like a generic time bucket, and think they'll come back and fix it, rather than go to the project manager at that stage on Friday afternoon and say, hey, you assigned me to the right task, or I can't find my task, can you change it? So, remember, time management is a reactive thing. The more easy you make it for people to enter time, the much more likelihood that they're going to enter time correctly and accurately. That doesn't mean it's going to be the case for everybody. Obviously, there are customers in specific situations where you probably have to have, either for compliance reasons or legal reasons, where you must have a much more tight-knit ship and tighter security. But as far as possible, at least in the initial stages of go live, we've seen customers kind of having a little bit more open time management, so that people can enter time a lot easier, and then start nailing it down, so to speak, making it more restricted. The next one is more to make sure that non-project effort is modeled. And there's a couple of ways to do this, right? We've seen customers either do this using either assets or maintenance, quote-unquote, maintenance projects. The main advantage with that, making sure this is modeled, is that obviously, it reminds resources, hey, not only should I be entering time on projects, but if I spend, 20 hours, maybe not 20 hours, maybe 8 hours this week, I spend it on enhancements, I make sure that I enter it, rather than just blindly putting, okay, 40 hours project A, that's the only thing I put, and then I walk out the door. Just making sure that you model it, and the resources understand that there's an expectation that any time that they do a non-project effort is captured. That helps with compliance and increasing accuracy as well. A couple other things. The next one is definitely, the next two are kind of tied to each other in the sense that you want to keep an eye on resources being over-allocated. And there's a couple of places as well where you can actually see if Tom is allocated 50%, on the other hand, the PM has assigned more tasks, more than 50%, you can monitor it. It's not something that you want to do. You don't necessarily have to do it daily, but at least at a very high level, keep an eye on that, whether it's the responsibility of the resource manager to keep an eye on that, or the person's individual manager, and so on. The main goal is to make sure that if there are over assignments, you fix it. As I said, it's not unusual for somebody to be 120% assigned, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. But if it becomes a habit and if it becomes prolonged periods of time, that is probably something that you want to address, whether it's through adding a resource or changing the duration of the particular task, and so on and so forth. Okay. If there are other issues that people have seen, obviously we do want to kind of know. Obviously, there are other good practices. We don't want to necessarily say that this is a best practice. There are best practices that applies to all individual scenarios and so on. But these are some of the common things we've seen that helps customers increase their time management compliance and also the accuracy of their time management. Okay. Obviously, the main goal with that is to be able to see how much you planned for a particular task and how much actually ended up being in terms of effort. So if you habitually seeing, hey, we always think this project is this development is going to take 300 hours, and we are often seeing it taking 500 hours, you're going to use that information to build that into the next step and so on, whether it's in terms of work breakdown structure or even to the next level of portfolio analysis, so that when you're doing this project the next time, you're going to make sure that you're not underestimating your effort or overestimating. If you're seeing a lot of, it's probably not that often that somebody actually comes in and says, hey, I was allocated, we thought it's going to take 40 hours, but it only took me 20 hours. Probably not something that happens often enough, but it is kind of good to know if there are places where either PMs or people that are estimating are overestimating as well. Okay. The next slide, we kind of wanted to talk about how PPM helps. Some of these we've kind of talked about, but we did kind of want to kind of reinforce how PPM as a tool helps with some of these time management related processes. One is obviously, I'm pretty sure the customers that are using time management knows that you can actually set it up for PPM to send out reminders saying, hey, you didn't enter your time, a delinquent email saying, Mr. So-and-so, you didn't enter your time. Obviously, right now it doesn't have a predictive analytics capability that says, Tom has been not entering time the past couple of weeks. I'm going to send him a reminder, even though he's supposed to be entering time on Friday. I'm going to start nagging him a day earlier. That level of capability doesn't exist now, but that is something that we'd like to see, or at least I would like to see, so that, some predictive capability saying, hey, either Tom is going to go on vacation. The last 2 years when he went on vacation, he forgot to enter time or something like that beforehand. But at the very least right now, you can have reminder emails, and we've seen also customers build in additional visibility into, so that you can say, hey, these are the people that haven't entered time, or even send out all of IT saying these are the people that didn't enter time. Definitely we've seen, these are some of the things we've seen. The next is PPM allows you to model non-project time, right? So not just projects, but this is a maturity level that we've seen some customers do, not all customers, either using assets or maintenance projects, making sure that resource time for non-project work is modeled, and resources know that they're assigned to these quote-unquote tasks for entering the non-project time. Just once again, not all tools obviously have this, and not all customers kind of get into the habit of doing this. So, but it's a maturity level that we've seen some customers actually go down to the step of modeling non-project time. The next two items that we see, views of project actual versus planned effort at multiple levels. So you can not just see at the individual task level depending on how you're entering time, you can actually, the fact that PPM also rolls up and says, hey, it's not just individual tasks that took 20% more, but overall, the development phase itself took 20% more or 10% more or 50% more, depending on how much over you went. The main goal and idea with that is obviously so you can use this information, close the loop, and the next time you do the project, either you can really incorporate this information either into your new work breakdown structure template or time or even your portfolio analysis, so that instead of budgeting 300 hours, you're going to budget 500 hours for that particular piece of work. The next piece that obviously helps is the fact that there's one central system for all projects and maintenance efforts. So it's not like some systems where only you can enter project time. The fact that you can also have non-projects information captured and modeled, not just at the project levels, but also for the whole portfolio. So you have visibility into how much of time is going for your not just time, but also the overall cost of supporting applications and different assets. The fact that you can roll up definitely helps. The next two are much more tactical, those suggested items and my items. Obviously, this makes it, this is much more, this is, I think, been there for a few years now, I think version 7 or something like that. The obvious goal with that is that, not just people don't have to go and pick and, on a weekly basis, find the tasks that they worked on. The fact that the system suggests or reminds them makes it easier for people to say, hey, I spent, 2 hours on this, 5 hours on this. Particularly, there are a lot of details, right? If it's one thing, if somebody's saying I worked on project A for 40 hours, week after week after week, that's one thing. But if they have different tasks, and you've actually broken down into your detailed work breakdown structure to, what PMI recommends, something like 8 hours, tasks and so on and so forth, then it becomes a much more tedious thing, tedious piece of work for somebody to say, what did I work on, and add those on and so on. So these are some of the things that we've seen. If there are things that you've seen, other tools and other approaches, please feel free to put it in your chat information. It helps us not just review that and kind of learn from you guys and for other attendees learn about that. It also helps us understand what we're seeing customers use. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Sylvia.
Yeah, thanks. Very, very interesting information, Mo, because they are super connected. And then when you talk about resource time, we also talk about cost, how much that costs, right, and the budget. So we do have also some information about how to avoid the pitfalls for cost management, right? What are your struggles, right? What's your major struggles for cost management? So for me, most of the times, no clear budget, the budget allocation changes. There was some cases that I heard that no visibility to real costs, poor data to management, right, to manage the staff costs. So there were situations that I was managing a project, and then I have the budget allocated, and then the next day the budget cut in half, right? And then how you reallocate again the resource and how you get on track. And then, of course, it's going to affect time. It's going to affect some areas for sure because everything is interconnected, right? But how you deal with that, right? There is so much issue that also can happen and then can interfere in cost within the project, right? So here's my struggle, right? Constant change in the budget, as I mentioned, right? I'm always asked to do more with less. Sometimes, though, we come back with, this is the cost that the project is going to cost. No, this is too high. How can we reduce? Yeah, when we reduce cost, I need to reduce scope as well, right? There was also some changes. Sometimes, companies get acquired or companies change organizations like BUs, units, move here and there. We are living in a very dynamic world right now where priorities change kind of almost every day. So how we avoid those pitfalls and then manage those struggles that we have with cost, right? So here, before I talk about even how we can help, etc., I want to ask you, Mo, tell me about one of the cases that you have, about cost management experience that made you be up for weeks or days, right? And then how you kind of manage that? What could be differently on that?
Okay, this is obviously, cost management is obviously always a concern, and we've seen customers run into issues. The one example I was going to give was a customer that they'd already gone through the annual planning process, and they decided these are the 5 projects or 100 projects they were going to do for fiscal year XYZ, and then one of the business unit leaders came up and started suggesting trying to do one additional project as part of the run rate, in addition to all the other projects they were going to do. Obviously this was a big issue for him, for the particular business unit person, but the fact that it's going to increase the overall budget and resource and so on, and the visibility into that kind of helped to be able to go back and say, okay, if we do all these projects that have been approved for IT for next year, and also do this particular project that you're requesting, this is the impact it's going to be from a portfolio perspective, and that's something that we definitely see customers, to be able to have that conversation and say, okay, if we do this additional project, this is what it's going to do, not just to the resources, but also to the cost itself of the project, and for the overall portfolio, the impact of that is something that people, with the fact that it's a central system, the visibility into that and the ability to communicate that helped. The other thing we've seen is often the fact that we've seen projects being green, in terms of cost metric being green month after month after month, and then the last 2 months, either the month before they go live or 2 months before that, suddenly changes to from being green, very green, to very red. Obviously, we all know 80% of most project work is done in the last 20% of the time, and then there's obviously an additional another 80% that's added to meet quality and scope requirements. But that's always the case, right? You often see customers projects. This may be not just one project, not all your projects, but some individual projects where some groups within different customers, even Group A is very good, but then Group B has a tendency to have projects that are green, and then just the last minute turned red, because that's when they realized, oh yeah, we need to have instead of being over budget by 10%, whatever the buffer was, now they're going to be over budget by 50%. So these are some of the things that you see often enough. Sylvia, I'm pretty sure other people have other concerns and issues they've seen often. If you have, go ahead and please share.
Yes, absolutely, Mo. And then here are some ideas, even like you, Mo, this is a great experience that you provide, but on top of that, right, some tips for you guys, right? Initially, whenever you have a project, make sure that you know the budget, right? Don't go just for you have approximately an estimate. No, make sure that you get that from the stakeholders and do a cost analysis, see if the time and the resource can be done and the project can be delivered on time with that. Constant risk analysis, constant management for the budget is very important. Visibility, it's key, and not just for cost, but everything, right? Especially for cost too, because again, any change that you might have in the budget or even in your costs, right, you might need to bring up as soon as possible to a stakeholder and have some business decisions accordingly. And Mo, how PPM can help with cost management?
Help with some of the issues that we've seen. One is obviously the portfolio visibility, right? So it's not just your individual project that gets affected if there's cost issues, but it has overall, the fact that you can have visibility into the overall portfolio. So you can actually say, hey, if this project goes over, maybe we can adjust it a little bit and move the project B a little bit out, or move portions of the project B, maybe the server ordering, move it out. So the fact that it's in one central system, it provides visibility into the overall portfolio, helps you manage the cost management, right? So you can maybe do a little bit of what-if analysis and say, maybe we move that portion out, maybe we move this project out. that helps. We've often seen customers kind of have to do that kind of juggling and kind of reconcile and move things around to make the financial model fit again. The second part is, and this is one the fact that PPM you can do bottom up. So not just some customers have for projects are so-called hey, this is your pot of gold, go do project X. But then some customers are actually a little bit more mature, right, or mature, maybe even within different groups within a group, within an IT organization. Some are much more of instead of taking all of it as one pot of gold, treat it as a time-phased budget so that you actually have a financial summary that shows, month by month by month. So you can actually see, hey, you know what, instead of having that surprise of last minute 50% over budget project, you can kind of see month by month by month, saying, hey, this month we're over by 100K, maybe next month we are over by 10%, 15%, or maybe hopefully some months you're less, so on. So the fact that you can do month by month and also do bottom-up analysis by using individual labor cost, roll that up information, and do a comparison to what you plan to do, that also helps customers often enough. The next piece is the fact that you can have integrated risk management, scope management, and issue management. So if there is, if you think, hey, I'm going to have to order extra servers, or I'm going to have bring on 10 additional contractors, those are risks that you, for whatever be the reason, the fact that you're managing it, monitoring it, helps you keep on top of the cost management side of it. The final piece is obviously integration with financial systems. This is something that helps because you're not just waiting for a project manager to manually enter the information back from, particularly for hardware and software costs and so on, things like that, into the tool. Using integration that helps customers manage and stay on top of it, because instead of somebody logging into a different system, putting that information back from, say, your ERP system into PPM, and then kind of keeping track of it, integration with financial systems helps as well.
Right. No, I totally agree with you. There is visibility in the bottom up. It's very good features to help also when managing cost. So, guys, and we're almost on top of the hour, right? And just quick points here, right, to finalize, summarize, is basically we talk about resource timing costs. I think one of the key things is constant management. Visibility is very important, right? And also real-time analytics for business decision. So understand your team, constant management, constant visibility. It's important to ensure that you have a very good project deliverables and also avoid any pitfalls and resource, or I would say not any, but majority of the pitfalls that we mentioned about resource timing cost. So that's what we have for today, guys. But before we finish, I just want to see if we have any questions. Thanks for the collaboration. I had several collaborations here in the question area, in the chat area, so that was very nice to hear from you guys too, even exchange some information. Sandra, thank you so much for also providing some input here. But I want to hand to Alvin. Alvin, we have a couple of questions in the question area. If you want to read at least one of those here on top of the hour, I think when regarding the cost management, I think that would be one important to answer before we finalize.
Sure. Great. Wasn't that a great presentation by Sylvia and Mo? A lot of great details. The first question that we have, Sylvia, is can I integrate financial systems with PPM?
Let me take that. Yes, this is probably one of the most common integrations we've seen, whether it's ERP systems or some similar systems. The two types of integrations we see is one is bringing in cost information, actual invoicing, invoices received on a monthly basis or something like that from a financial system like SAP or Oracle, financials and so on into PPM. The other thing we've seen is obviously extracting PPM resource cost and putting that into a financial system. Often whether it's contractor time or even individual labor time back into a financial system for cross-charging and so on. So these are a couple of scenarios that we've seen often. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that, Mo. Thank you for the presentation today. There will be a short survey that you can opt in for more information on HP. Also, I'd like to let you know that the recording and the presentation will be on the Vivid website that you'll receive a link to after the presentation. You should receive that by email. If you're not a Vivid member, please sign up and you'll have access to all of our Vivid recordings and also other tools and events that Vivid hosts. Thank you again, Mo and Sylvia, for a great presentation, a lot of detail about PPM and the things that we can do around resource, time, and cost. And all Vivid members, thank you for your time today, and you guys have a great day. Bye-bye.